Hey there, welcome to the first episode of the African Mavericks podcast. I'm your host, Ebuka Nwana. And on this channel, we aim to promote independent thinking and purposeful living amongst young Africans, with the ultimate goal of encouraging our listeners to bet on their truth. Now, and I know to some of you that may sound unsexy, but if for whatever reason that resonates with you, please stick around. On today's episode, we're going on an interesting and amazing journey with Bella Obudho. Imagine growing up in Nairobi, Kenya, full of dreams, books, and the burning question of what if. Bella took that curious child's heart and turned it into a journey of discovery, resilience, and leadership, becoming a superstar in making customers happy all around the globe. Our story isn't just about climbing to the top, it's about the bumps, the turns, and leaps along the way. Bella believes in the magic of reading, the strength found in tough times, and also in igniting sparks of greatness in people around her. So join us as Bella shares her roller coaster ride from Nairobi to the world, lighting up the path for others to follow. It's a story of hope, hustle, and heart. So without much further ado, let's dive right in.
To start, I would like you to just give me a background of your story and how that led you to where you are today.
All right. Thank you so much, Ebuka, for having me over. It's awesome to have this opportunity to speak with you and your listeners. I'm happy to be here. And part of my story is that I came into this world about 38 years ago. And I was brought up, born and bred in Nairobi, Kenya. I am the last of 5 children, and our parents brought us up to be very independent thinkers and to embrace what society has to give. So I went through my early childhood days in one school, in a primary school, which rendered our families morning routine to be to be quite hilarious. So we used to all get up as early as I think 4:30 a.m. because we all at some point needed to be inside the vehicle for my dad to transport us all to school.
Yeah.
And my older siblings are like 10 or so years older than me. So as the years went by, and with my father's commitment to always pick and drop us from school, the population inside the vehicle was decreasing as the years were going by. And at some point, it was just my dad and I. And that was a very precious year for me. I remember riding with my dad to school when I was just about to sit the national exams. So that's one of the years where it was just me and him to and from school. And the conversations there were mostly about the books we were reading. So my dad was an avid reader, and he was very keen to keep time. So he gifted us with watches and
Mm.
books. And my love for timekeeping as well as managing people's time is very instrumental to who I am. I know you've experienced this from me just today, right? Where
Very true.
I was so exact about how much time you need to give me and what I need to do.
Yes.
Um and then also my love for reading. So I was just telling one of my friends the other day that I'm finishing my 16th book for 2023. And she was super amazed. She was like, "Oh my word." And I said, "It takes 15 minutes a day, and all you need is 15 minutes a day." So I love to read. I prospered in my academics. I went to the best performing school at the time, secondary school, and in our final year we were also the best performing overall school in secondary school, and proceeded to the university to do a degree in mathematics.
Oh wow.
Yes, mathematics. I get that a lot from people.
Yeah.
um and that's about my school life. If I could say my family life, I am a mother of 2 wonderful children. I have a daughter who's 10, and my son turned 4 just last month.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome, awesome. So it's interesting to hear about the relationship with your dad. And well, the family dynamics first of all to start with, and how that led to the relationship with your dad and him influencing you to be an avid reader. Um, besides him, can you think of any other or who else would you say has influenced you or mentored you to along the way?
That would be my English teacher during my standard 7 and standard 8. So I was about 12, 13 years old.
Okay.
And my English teacher said to me, you love to read and you're always using a new word here and there in your composition writing and in your storytelling.
Mhm.
Do you want to, and she made a joke of it, but I took it seriously. And she was like, do you want to learn a new word every day? And I said, yes, for sure. And I started to read the dictionary. And whenever I came upon a new word that fascinated me,
Mhm.
I would write it in a notebook, the meaning thereof, and I would construct a sentence. So it became part and parcel of what I do in terms of learning something new every day. So that
Okay.
would be my English teacher very early on. She enabled me to always, aspire to learn something new.
Mm.
And it's been part and parcel of how I live my life to date. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. It's interesting that you have influences from both ends of the spectrum, mathematics in your college and English, growing up. So how are those two things like, or that as well as other, what I say, experiences and information and knowledge that you've gathered over the years, how has that led you into doing what you're doing today? And if you don't mind, can you share a bit about what it is you do today?
Okay. So what happened is when I went to the university and studied mathematics, it came easily to me because I used to love math when I was in secondary school, in primary school. And at the time, it was my second choice, given I had not successfully managed to get into an actuarial sciences program. So I went in for the next best, and that for me was mathematics, and I majored in statistics.
Okay.
How that feeds into what I'm doing right now is I look at customer data and I look at trends, and I can easily pick insights from data analysis. I
Okay.
easily speculate and create hypotheses around how to how to map customer data to business decisions. The
Okay.
interesting thing is the people in my team, once I share a hypothesis with them and they go to look at the data and they analyze it and they put it all together, they are ever so happy and excited to come back to me and say, I think you already knew what was going to happen because the data is now showing us exactly what you had hypothesized. I mean,
Mm.
it's completely exciting that I get to merge my knack for math with customer experience. So I am now the global head of customer experience at NG Energy Access with a
Okay.
portfolio of over 1.9 million customers across Africa.
Wow.
And I work with my colleagues who are in the 9 African markets and then Europe and China as well.
That's
So it's wonderful to jump out of bed excited, wanting to solve for a customer, and knowing that one of the ways we can solve for that one household that does not have electricity from the national grid helps us to solve across multiple countries. Yes,
mm,
and it's super exciting to go to bed at night thinking we made a difference in a household somewhere in rural Africa.
that's awesome. That's awesome. So can you tell me how what led you to this path? Because it
Mhm.
doesn't seem like, from your just listening to your background, it doesn't seem like this is something you were influenced to do. It feels to me that, and correct me if I'm wrong here, it feels to me that this was a decision that you chose for yourself. So could you tell me like maybe a pivotal moment that led you to getting into customer experience?
Yes, most definitely. When I went back to the job market in 2014, I took the best job that was available to me at the time, which was a sales role.
Okay.
And I started out in selling personal banking products for one of the leading banks in Kenya. And at the time, they were transitioning from being a fully corporate bank to embracing personal banking. And their strategy there was to onboard customers that worked at organizations where the bank had an agreement with, and those employees were getting preferable rates for their loans and for their accounts. And I did that for 1 year. And can I tell you, that was 2014. I am still in a relationship with some of those customers today. I mean, it's really wonderful that as I moved from company to company between 2014 and 2018, I literally was selling different products, from banking to branding to investment products to, yes, I think I sold across those, to training and certifications. I sold across those products, but then some of my customers moved with me. And when I say moved with me, is that they were either able to embrace the product and service I was selling, or they were able to give me a referral. And I remember, especially when I was in branding, every first week of the month, I was able to close on my monthly target. So the rest of the 3 weeks was chasing after a huge pipeline that could close the next month. And I managed to bring on board an entire vertical that was untapped by that company. I was able to bring back some dormant customers. So I knew when I was in sales that there had to be something that was different about how I was selling. The consultative element, the co-creation element with my customers, understanding who they are, what they are, and what we are solving for, was pretty clear to me. And I knew that that was the best way to sell. And I was eager to drive referral business, because then it just makes it easier. Somebody else is pitching for you, right?
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. So when I was selling an integrated customer experience platform, and my main customer base was heads of customer experience in some of the leading companies in Kenya, the more I interacted with them one-on-one and in different organizational forums, the more it clicked with me that what I had been doing in the commercial space, was more about the relationships with the customers and offering a great experience. So what I did, I went in pursuit of what this customer experience is. I got my certifications in 2018 going into 2019. And by 2020, I had literally shifted my career to focus on customer experience. And while I was in a head of operations and customer experience role based here in Kenya, I was able to influence other businesses in 6 markets in Africa.
Wow.
And how I did this post-COVID, during and post-COVID, is I always insisted on measuring the customer's experience and linking those metrics to business outcomes. Remember, I'm coming from a commercial point of view, so we must always talk about the revenue that's generated from the customers, and we must always talk about cost savings in terms of any process improvements. And that has been my storyline in growing in customer experience, to always link the human part of who we are as customers to the business outcomes.
Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm thinking here I need to take a sales training class from you.
I'm already selling to you, right?
I'm sold. Well, I love how you've been intentional about, where you are, and using the information and knowledge you have to impact and add value to the system. I think that's, for my understanding, I think that is one of the things that has fueled your growth and your success. So the next set of questions I want to ask you is around the intent of African Mavericks, right? I don't know if I shared this with you, but the aim of African Mavericks, which could evolve over time, but for now, it's to promote independent thinking and purposeful living amongst young Africans. And one of the ways we intend to do that is by sharing stories like yours, where someone who comes across your story will be inspired to think independently about what it is they're supposed to do with their lives, right? So in Given that context, I want to ask some questions about purpose and independent thinking. To you, what does it mean? How would you define living purposefully in your life?
Wow. Living purposefully in my life would resonate with my purpose statement.
Ooh,
So
love to hear that.
my personal purpose statement is I am a bright shining star with sparkles that ignite gentle flames of greatness.
Ooh,
Mm. So it took a couple of years to come up with that, with that purpose statement and 1 week of coaching and being coached.
mm,
And in that 1 week, it took us moving into our childhood experiences, digging deep into our crucible moments in our childhood, the things that when you close your eyes, breathe in, breathe out, you can remember that were very impactful in your life. And then starting to define throughout your life what those defining moments have been. And so bright kept coming up, star kept coming up, ignition, speaking with people and enabling them to tell their stories. So when you said you wanted to reach out to me to tell my story, I was like, in line with my purpose statement, right?
yeah.
Um, and everyone has a piece of greatness.
Mm,
Everyone does. If I'm able to ignite that in you, then I'm living out my purpose. And what I want to say about living out your purpose is that in everything that you go through in life, your purpose statement and the reason for your being is coming true.
mm,
So right now, someone might listen to us and they're in a valley phase of their life. And they're probably asking a lot of questions about the different things that they're going through. Maybe they've lost a loved one, they've failed in a relationship or an exam that they were doing, or they're just going through something. They're in a valley moment, maybe in their finances. And those are the times that we ask ourselves a lot of questions. And there's somebody else who's in a moment where they're at the top of the mountain. They're standing atop a mountain and they're just thinking there's no better place in life right now. They have passed an exam, they have won an award, they have been recognized at work, they've received a bonus, they've won the lottery, something, I don't know. But here's the thing, no matter what phase you are in life, or you're still climbing from the valley and you've not reached the peak of the mountain, wherever you are in life, your purpose is always showing.
mm,
And sometimes you only know it when you've been through it,
mm,
right?
mhm.
Hmm. So that's what I'd like to say about living a life of purpose.
A beautiful answer. Beautiful answer. And you're the first person that has given an answer here and aligned it with a purpose statement.
That's a
Yeah,
good one. It's a challenge for everyone to go through the journey of discovering what their purpose statement is.
very true. Very true. I think I've written down. I wrote mine down somewhere, but I had to look for look where I wrote it down. Um, but I love your answer, and it leads me to the next question, which is about challenges that you may have faced along the way. Um, from someone that's just based on what I know about your story so far, I'm I assume that you've gone through several challenges. Um, could you share like some significant challenges that you faced that maybe would I say challenged your purpose, and how did you overcome it?
Mm, that's a good one. One of the challenges that I faced is, and you can already tell that I was pretty close to my dad, is when my dad rested and I was 17 years old. And again, it was a defining year for me. It was the year that I sat another set of my national exams.
Yeah.
So by the time we were burying my father, that was 2 weeks prior to my trial exams. Like, you do some trial exams 6 months before the main exam.
Mm-hmm.
And I was 17 years old, and some of the statements that my relatives said still form part of my story, right? So there's those that said to my mother, I mean, she was pretty close to her dad. Do you really want to let her do her national exam? She's not going to do well in her national exams. And my mother said to them, knowing my daughter, I can't make that decision for her. So if you guys want to go talk to her about it, you're welcome to. If she chooses to sit the exams, I'll support her. If she chooses not to sit the exams this year and sit next year, I'll support her.
Mm.
And so my aunts were courageous enough to come to me and say, oh, well, it's a tough moment. You're not in the mental space to sit your exams. And I said to them, I know you're saying I'm 17 years old and that this exam is typically sat by people who are 18 years old. And that's one of the reasons they also gave that, even if you forfeit sitting the exams this year, you're still in good time. You're 1 year ahead of your class, of your classmates. So you can always sit the exam next year. And I said to them, what if next year I lose somebody else that's close to me?
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And I went ahead to sit the exams that year. It was tough. I walked out of at least 2 examination rooms. I was inconsolable at some point, but I did it. And now that I have a purpose statement, 20 or so years after that, how I would tie it into that is, that was a crucible moment for me. It was a breaking moment for me, but it was not a definition of who I am.
Wow.
If I chose to sit in it and say that, oh, I will fail the exam, or if I chose to sit in it and say, my dad is gone, I can no longer afford fees to university, which is what happened, I would have decided to sit in that. And God knows how long it would have taken me to get out if the people around me honestly thought that my dad's resting was a definition of the rest of my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I am a bright shining star with
Wow.
sparkles that ignite gentle flames of greatness.
Wow. Wow. First of all, thank you for sharing such a vulnerable and touching experience with me. I could feel. I know this is years ago, but I could still feel the for lack of a better word, void that his absence brought into your life. But it's great to see that you didn't, like you say, sit in that and become a victim of that moment. You know, and that kind of leads me to my next question: is how do you handle setbacks when when you're faced with them?
Right now, I look at my long list of achievements. That's one of the things that gets me going. I've read enough self-help books that tell me you need to create a list of all of the things that are strength about you,
Mm,
all of the things that are great about you, because you're going to need that list. You're going to need to be referring to that list a couple of times during this thing called life. Yeah. So I have this very interesting list that is full of my strengths and the things I absolutely love about myself. And in that list, I also have feedback from my friends, from my family, from the people that tell me, this and that comes very easily to you. You're very good at this or that. So I have that long list for my hard days.
mm,
And then I remind myself that the setback itself, the challenge itself, is not who I am. So I need to look in the mirror when I'm having a bad day or I have received bad news and remind myself who I am.
mm,
So it's hard. I'm going to cry. I'll throw a tantrum. I'll sleep all day. I'll refuse to eat. I'll go through it. Yeah. And I don't
mm,
think enough is usually said about going through stuff, like processing stuff. It's the one day you will not feel like waking up or exercising or taking a bath. Those things happen, right? But what you're going through is not who you are. It's not a definition of who you are. So you also have to surround yourself with the people that allow you to throw a pity party, but just for long enough for it to be a pity party that's done. And they can still call you out and say, okay, we are done. We are done with this phase. We are done with the crying. please get please get up. Please get up from there, you know? So you have to also surround yourself with such people that are a phone call away, a text away, a message away enough to speak with you about what you're going through, to encourage you and to pick you up. I listen to podcasts as part of my morning routine, and one of the podcasts that's a go-to for me is um the Optimism podcast by Simon Sinek. And there's a particular episode I listened to where he was answering questions that had been collated from his listeners. And one of his producers, I think, was the one asking him the questions and he was answering. And he was asked about, tough moments and how he goes through them. And he said he never goes through a tough moment or a tough decision by himself. He has people that he calls and they go through it with him. Right? Yeah. And I've embraced that philosophy that, sometimes, and you'll hear this often, sometimes even when you start to share with your very trusted circle about what you're going through, you soon discover that there's nothing new under the sun. We isolate and we think it only happened to me, or it's only happening to me, or you think you're the only person who's going through such a hard time. The moment you begin to open up, you will find that there are so many sources of encouragement. There's somebody who's gone through it, maybe not exactly the way you have, and they could sometimes not exactly understand what you're going through, but they will listen to you with a lot of empathy because they've been there. And then you'll meet others that are probably going through worse. And this is not to say that when you're going through a hard time, then as long as it's not as hard as the next best person, you should be okay. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you just need to be in a safe enough space to not go through what you're going through on your own. I could talk about this for days.
Two things that you said there that resonated with me was one, the fact that this is a lesson that I also learned in going through my own setbacks and challenges, is that I'm not alone in I'm not the only person that faces struggles. People that's what this life is about. So that would I say understanding in sharing my story is what helped me, get to this place where I rarely ever fall into a victim mentality anymore. Um, Another thing that in sharing my story with a trusted friend was she said to me, with pain is subjective, meaning
Mm.
meaning it's the person that's wearing the shoe that knows where it's hurting them. So you can't see someone's pain and dismiss it, or feel like your own pain is worse than theirs. There's no comparison when it comes to pain. So I 100% resonate with what you shared.
Mm.
So the next question is about independent thinking, right? One of the first things you said was your parents uh, uh, brought you guys up to be independent thinkers. So let's speak more about that. What does it mean to you? What does thinking independently mean to you? And can you give me examples of how you've cultivated that in yourself and in the people around you?
Mm. All right. Independent thinking for me means get all the data, bring it all in, get all the information. I've already told you I'm an avid reader. So there's look through a certain book or something I ever read or came across, ask a few thought leaders about it, and then go away with that information
Mm-hmm.
and find what it is that is for you. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, cultivate the solution or your next step. Yeah. So it's not necessarily an isolated way of thinking. It's just that the decision still is with you. And sometimes it even takes you changing the environment you're in, even physically. You need to go out to the garden, sit there with all of the different facts and information that you have brought together, and then think it through and come up with what's for you.
mm,
That's what I would think about it. And if I was to say the times that I've been an independent thinker in my life, I think I already gave one example of sitting that exam despite my family thinking, it was a break moment in my life, so I wouldn't be able to. But the other one would be, yeah, when I finished campus, I went on to register a business.
to what?
And to register a business.
Okay.
So I asked myself, after 4 years of doing a bachelor's in mathematics, and during that fourth year, I saw some of my comrades doing projects, and we were not doing our projects, and part of their project delivery was collecting and analysis of data. And I started to help people to do that, and I was doing it voluntarily. And then when I finished campus, I decided to now monetize. And when I started to monetize it, I decided to register it as an entity. And that for me was a time when I didn't read so much about starting a business, registering it, or monetizing it. It was gut. It was all gut. And again, it was solution thinking. It was
Mm,
looking at my environment and saying, a couple of people really need this solution. And
mm,
of those that I'm speaking to, they're always referring someone else. I'm turning away people because now I do not have the time resource
mm,
to give to everyone. Yeah. And sometimes things will come to you based off of the environment you're in and the value you can give.
mhm,
And when you establish what that is, I don't think you need somebody else to tell you take the next step.
mhm,
You take the naturally best step to you. It's feeding to your strengths and the environment is conducive. You take a decision.
mm.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Interesting um uh perspective. I would be honest and say, based on the conversations I've had so far, my understanding of independent thinking is is changing, because the the last
what's
guest
what's your definition? Oh, the last guest I had tell me.
yeah, the last guest I spoke with,
Mm-hmm.
she said independent thinking can only thrive in an environment that allows it to flourish. And
Mm,
listening to you too, it's seems that independent thinking is dependent on environment you're in. Your ability to think independently is dependent on the environment you're in, and taking in, you know, the data, like you say, from that environment before you can then um, think independently. For me, I did not see it that way. I
mm-hmm.
saw independent thinking as this is comes from within, and this is how I stand, and it's different to what is around me. I never really looked at it from a um the reason why I'm thinking independently is because of the environment I'm in and the data that I've taken in. I never saw it that way. I saw it as something that just springs up from my own rebellion, or my own willingness to be different, if that makes any sense.
It does. It does. It speaks to the uniqueness of what we all have within us.
Hmm.
And you still might not be able to formulate a way of thinking that hasn't been influenced by your environment.
Very
Yeah.
true.
So you've been nurtured a certain way. Nature has done its thing also. So there are a couple of things that will influence your thinking. But also at this point, I'd just like to mention that you can't be limited in your independent thinking. And the only way to widen that scope is exposure. So you need to keep exposing yourself to a lot more information and people and places. And then now it influences also your independent thinking.
I love that. Love that. And noted. Personally noted. So let's go into this kind of segues into, perspectives and lessons that you've learned over time. So can you share like some of the most valuable lessons that you've picked up on your journey?
Aha, we'll go with St. Jerome's quote that is my mantra.
Okay.
Good, better, best. Never let it rest till your good is better and your better is best.
Oh, takes me
Yes,
back to nursery school.
I mean, it keeps me going. I write for you my bio at the bottom. There'll be that mantra. I make a keynote speech and I'm speaking about becoming a better person every day. I'm gonna mention that mantra. So for me, if I'm good at something, I'm looking to be better at it tomorrow. If I'm better than what I was yesterday, I'm looking to be the best at it, right? And that for me is a lesson around everything from parenthood to to leading a team at work. I hear my team say, we admire this about how you lead, and we appreciate that you show up a certain way. And I'm thinking, that's why I need more coaching. That's and yes, I am being coached. I own it. Not because I was coached 2 years ago, then that's enough. No, I'm curious about keeping on. I've just got to be good at something, better at it, and the best at it. Mm.
I love that. I love that. It makes me think of filling your cup, because you come across as someone that is willing to fill other people's cup. So in order to do that, you have to keep filling your own cup, right? Because at some point it's gonna be empty and you wouldn't have anything to fill if you don't keep filling up your
So
cup.
true.
Yeah, I
So
love
true.
that.
So true. So true.
So how was
My coach recently said to me, we were just going through one of our sessions, and she said to me, what do you do immediately after, a certain situation I was describing to her? And I said, I immediately check up on everyone just to make sure that everyone's okay and that we're on the same page. And she asked me, so who checks up on you during that situation or immediately after that situation? And that was a long pause, a very long pause. I did not have an answer. And I realized that, yes, I do reach out to fill my cup in many of the ways that even the people closest to me might not know. But I'm conscious about it. I'm super conscious about how much I give and pour out. And it's interesting that you can already tell that about me. Yes, I am conscious about filling my cup.
so if you don't mind me asking, since that conversation now, what have you done to, would I say, take care of you? Like what have you done to do that, to address that situation?
Mm. So self-care for me is big, and my personality is very outgoing and very extroverted. However, I share this often and I tell people, you will get me in my house for the whole weekend. Yes, I will be in the confines of my house for the whole weekend. I will read for hours. I will listen to my favorite music. I will dance with my children or by myself. I will do all of those things that speak to my spirit and that keep filling me up. I'll go for the long evening walks. And most of those things are done in the confines of my space, my home, and my, you know, can I say, my children, my household.
Mm-hmm.
And also, one of the other things that I have done is to make sure to tell my friends that they should check up on me more often. You know, I think we think it's obvious, but you do need to tell people that, because if I have conditioned them to think that I'm always okay, that I am the strong one of the pack, that I will show up for you all the time. If I have conditioned them to treat me as such, then, you know, they might have no idea that they need to check up on me as often. So, you know, I've come outrightly and said it to them. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I think I need to do more of that too, because I tend to put on this lone wolf pack uh um persona that I'm good on my own. But I've been going through some things sometimes, and I just want someone to call me and say, "Hey, how are you doing?" You know. So noted, personal note taken.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk about your perspective. You know, so for someone that reads a lot, that um, is very willing to take in more information, right? How was your perspective changed over time? Like, let's compare it to that the 17-year-old Bella that you know um had the courage to not be a victim in that pivotal moment of her life, and the 38-year-old Bella now. Sorry if I let out your age to my audience, but you let them know first. How has your perspective changed over time?
Mm. Wow. I think it's strengthened. It has become even stronger.
Mm,
At 17, I still had a spirit around, I can do this, I am made to do this, I am strong. And right now, what has happened over those 20 plus years is that life has thrown different things my way.
mm,
And I can now say I am proof of what I believed I could be.
okay.
Yes, I am proof. Nothing is completely unattainable to me. No, not at all. And 2023, most especially, has had such pleasant surprises. Such pleasant surprises. When I started out the year, I created a vision board. I'm looking at it. It's to the right of my hand.
Mm,
And it has a lot of printed stuff. I've visualized a couple of things that I wanted for the year. I've pinned it all up there. I've hung a couple of things. And just the other day, I was looking at the vision board, and most of what's in it has come to pass, not in the way that I had envisioned it exactly,
mm-hmm,
but there's a representation of it in my life.
mm,
For example, I pinned up a certificate with my daughter's name, commending her for excellent performance at school and, yes, being admired by her peers and all that.
mm.
By the end of the year, she had so improved in her academics. I had to call the teacher and say, what did we do differently? um, yes. So I believe now more than ever that anything that happens to me or happens in my life comes my way for me to learn what I need to learn. The faster I learn it, the better for me.
Mm,
Otherwise, it will be a loop of life trying to teach me these lessons that I am not learning. And it makes me stronger and it makes me better every day. Yeah.
I
So
love,
if anything, my perspective is now stronger than ever.
love that. Love that. I also love the fact that your vision board, you were selfless on your vision board, because when I think vision board, which I do have as well, um, I think it's achievements, personal achievements. but you have an
Mm.
achievement there for your daughter. And maybe it's because I don't have kids yet that is still all about me. But I love the fact that you actually you're envisioning something for other people. And leads me to the next question I was about to ask. Like, how do you envision the future of Africa in terms of, you know, living purposefully and independent thinking? Because that's the context of what the conversation. So how do you envision Africa, like, in that context?
Mm. In a couple of years, and I think a couple of years has already started, is that Africa is going to be pivotal in defining the direction of everything around the world. Honestly, Africa is such a rich resource in terms of talent. We've seen some of the best African Mavericks in the last couple of years. We've also seen the rest of the world tapping into Africa's resources, and we've seen growth of economies, and we've seen countries change their leadership. So, for example, I think, is it 5 or 6 African countries now that have a woman president? That would be, yeah, Ethiopia, Tanzania, and maybe 2 or 3 others. So if you'd have said to our leaders 60 years ago that we would have female presidents, for example, you're shaking your head, you're like, nah. The woman's place is in the kitchen, kind of situation.
It may not be in the kitchen, but not as the head of state.
whereas the best chefs around the world are men. But
right?
Anywho, pun intended. So we are part and parcel of defining the direction of how the world is evolving. Yes, we are.
I love that answer. And just to piggyback off that, I think in in relation to independent thinking, I think it would be in our best interest for the the leaders that are going to, lead Africa in the future, to think independently about what it is that we have and not be easily influenced by external parties. But I'm not political.
I was about to tell you, don't turn me into a politician on this call.
And that's something I shy away from, even though my dad keeps encouraging me to go into politics. But that's conversation for another day.
Mm-hmm.
To piggyback off that, what advice would you give to the young Africans aspiring to maybe follow a similar path, or are inspired by your story?
I'd say go for it. Do not be held back, not at all. If you're listening to me and you're thinking about a big, hairy, audacious goal, go for it. Go for it. Like, you do not want to be limited by your beliefs. You do not want to say to yourself, I don't have the time. I do not have the money. I do not have a means of transport. I do not have the wardrobe to accompany that. There's so many limiting beliefs and narratives that we tell ourselves that we should just throw out of the window, completely out. And just to humanize it a little bit more, the other day I was looking at my limiting beliefs, and one of them is, I felt like I needed to lose weight in order for me to do certain things in my life. And it looks justifiable. It looks justifiable to say, I need to first lose weight, then I can. No, not at all. Who said? Who said? Who's measured who has taken the time to measure the weight of that goal and to say that my physical weight does not match up. Like who has said? Who? So we just need to these things we tell ourselves, these things. We need to just throw it out of the window. Your next best opportunity does not want you to have an excuse or to limit yourself out of that opportunity. That's what I would say to that young person. Speak out loud and say that thing, and I will tell you, no, throw it out of the window. You need to reframe. You need to reframe those limiting beliefs.
That one hit me deep, because to be human, this African Mavericks idea was something that came to me in 2015. Like, what the conversation that I've started having of recent is an idea that came to me in 2015. And, I listened to my limiting beliefs all this while, and it has taken me years before to convince myself that I am the fact that I was given this idea, and this idea has stayed with me over the years, even when I've tried to use other adventures or other experiences to quiet that idea. It has stayed, and it has kept on ringing. So it's in me addressing those limiting beliefs that gave me the courage now to reach out of the blue and ask to have conversations with Mavericks like you. So yeah, it hits me deep, and I take that one personally.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
When
you.
I saw the word maverick, they say the universe conspires. So 2 years ago, I identified myself as a maverick. Someone asked me to just describe myself in a word, and I said I'm a maverick. So when I saw your description of this, it rang true. I was like, here's a remembrance of who I am and how I define myself. Definitely, I'm speaking with the book. How soon? When? Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Just to add to that, like that was a realization I had as well personally. Just when I was thinking about a word that could describe the way I saw myself, Maverick was the word that stood out. And I shared earlier how from sharing my story, I started finding out that I'm not alone in this. So that's kind of what gave me gave. Granted, it's God, engineered, but it just from that personal experience, that was one of the things that gave me the idea to reach out to people that Mavericks that I feel would add to this conversation that is going on in my head. So yeah, from one Maverick to another Maverick, keep on.
That's us. They never see us coming.
Facts. So let's go into. I've kind of gone through the serious questions that I had, lined up. So let's go into some fun, creative, out of the box questions. You ready? Awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay, so if you could describe your life in 3 songs, no, in one song or one fruit, what would it be and why?
One song or one
fruit?
Can I have both?
Sure.
I am a neither or none person if you give me a choice of 2 things.
I love that. Go ahead.
Okay, so song for me right now is the one I was just saying right now. They never see me coming. Oh, coming.
It's Bandana.
Yes.
I love that song too. I love that song.
Yeah. And also if you understand me or not, say I'm okay. Yes, I'm okay. Not Terminator. Yes, Terminator. Yes.
Go, Ashake.
I'm telling you. So I know there will be other greater songs, but right now, those 2.
Yeah.
And for a fruit, I'm definitely going to go with an apple. Most definitely. That fruit is coming in many shades, but we grew up with it being represented in red. I love red. It's a color of passion. And then the apple is, they say an apple a day keeps the doctor away. So I think the ingredients in an apple are, they say if you take it in the morning, it's better than caffeine in coffee. Yeah, to wake you up faster than caffeine in coffee. Yeah, so it needs to be an apple.
Okay.
Yep.
Interestingly, the last guest, her fruit was the apple as well.
Oh yeah, Mavericks. This is us.
Let's see who. I'm gonna start keeping a tally of the fruits. Okay. Next question. Imagine if your life was a book. What would this chapter be called and why?
Ooh. If my life was a book, I think it would become home. I think it would become home.
Become home?
Yes. No, my son has just come into the room.
That's fine.
Okay, bye. All right. I'm going to do one of the trendy videos where your child walks into the room during COVID.
At least we didn't see him naked because I want to presume he was naked.
No, he was not naked. Thank God.
Kids, you gotta love them.
Yes, and I now acknowledge their presence when they come into the room, and I take the time to say what I can to them, and they can leave. I've worked from home for the last 3+ years, so they know this. They know that they do need to give me my space, but I will still take a minute to just acknowledge their presence. It's super important.
Okay.
All right. It would become home. Why is, I don't know if this has happened to you. When the best things in life, the best things happen in life, you want to go home with the news. You want to tell your people. Yeah? When the worst things in life happen to you, you want to go home. You want to, even if not articulate in words exactly what you're feeling or going through, you just want to be able to share it with someone, even in silence, or so that book would be Come Home, and the chapters would be about all of the mountains and the valleys of life and how that connects to going home.
Not bad. Not bad. So now, if you could send a message back to your younger self in 3 words, it could be a sentence or just 3 different words that could act like a coded message to your younger self. What would those 3 words be?
Just do it, or do it, girl.
Okay.
Or get up and do it. It would just be something to do with doing it. You have to do it.
Nike is gonna have to pay us for this one.
Oh, or we are gonna pay them. Oh my. Yes.
Yeah, I love that. Just do it. Just do it. Or do it, girl. I like do it, girl.
Yeah, do it, girl. I've got you.
All right, all right. Let's see. What other questions should I ask? Okay, if your life was a movie, if your life was a journey, is a journey, right? What vehicle are you traveling in, and why? And what does that say about your approach to life?
Oh wow, you're coming in with, you're saying the softer questions, but it's not really as soft, is it? Also, I'm trying to multitask here. It's getting a little bit dark. I hope this helps. I don't know that it does. Does it help? It does, yes.
Yes.
And I might need to move the lamp a little bit. So vehicle here is a car. It has to be a car or any moving locomotive.
Okay.
Because the first one that came to my mind was a race car, any of the racing cars. And why? It's because it takes so many experts for a racing car to be successful on the track. It takes a couple of people for that a Formula One driver to put their trust in, to know that when they get inside that vehicle and utilizing their own expertise and relying on the expertise of engineers, coaches, a whole group of people, that she can go around the track a couple of times and win. Right?
Yeah.
So that's what it would be for me. Success in any shape or form might have one person in front of it, but it has taken a multitude of people, experiences, that make that person be who they are. Right? And so it's a racing car.
I love that answer a lot because it takes a lot of humility to appreciate the fact that your success is dependent on the people that have influenced your life. I'm one of those people that I don't buy into this whole self-made um self-made narrative. Nobody is self-made.
How? Even your own being was because of two people.
Right?
So now what is this being self-made? How now?
Exactly. And whatever it is you're selling, or whatever got you to the place you were at, you actually had to sell that product to people. So it's like
Yes.
people play a role, however, however whichever way into your success. But that's a conversation for another day.
For another day. And this is how you also find out about legacy. Because if you make it completely about just you, I don't think your story lives on for too long. But if it's about other people, then you leave a legacy even beyond your physical being. When you've left this earth in your physical being, your legacy lives on.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I love that. Last question. So the slogan for African Mavericks is to bet on your truth. Now, when you hear that, bet on your truth, what do you think about that?
Do you need that all your guests should just answer these deep questions immediately? Do you want me to get back to you on that one?
I think I am thinking they are fun questions to answer.
Hey, now I have to sound so deep. No, I'm going to make it as simple as possible.
No, feel free to go deep.
When I will define this by when you get up every day, when you realize that you have breath again for another day. Just that realization. Yeah.
I love that. Simple and short and deep. So, okay, let me ask, this is just what question do you think would you have wanted me to ask you?
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
That I didn't ask
interesting. Maybe the typical questions around where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years?
Okay.
But I think those are such, no, it's so cliche. It's too cliche. I think if you would have asked me that, I would not have wanted to limit myself within those periods of time. Given what 2023 has shown me, 2023 has been limitless, boundless. Some of the phone calls and people like you reaching out to me were not planned, but those opportunities have overflowed. Literally, month on month, I have been sought after to contribute in one way or another to people's lives. And I don't want to say it was unforeseen. I just want to say that I'm glad the opportunities came and met my preparedness. Right? So in another 5-10 years, I'm looking to scale my greatness. Yeah. Mm.
Okay, love that. Love that. Just to add to that personally, on the last guest, she was talking about SMART goals, and that was something. I'm a self-help. Actually, I'm a recovering self-help addict. You had mentioned earlier how you're about to read your 16th book this year. For me, the most books I've read in a year was 26, and that
Yes.
was that was all self-help books. And
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm recovering from that. But the reason why I brought that up is one of the things that keep on coming up in self-help books is setting goals and setting smart goals. And I always felt that was kind of limiting because this is my perspective. It's like you never know what is going to happen, right? You never know what God has in plan for you. At least for my personal experience, the things that I've said I wanted to accomplish, it would end up working in different ways that it it takes some presence of mind to realize that that thing I wrote down, I'm actually accomplishing it, but in a different way.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know. So for now, I write intentions. I write intentions. I don't write goals. I write
Oh,
intentions, and
love it.
I've been writing the same three intentions for a minute now, and just the other day I was looking back at it and I was like, wow, okay, I'm actually living a life in line with these intentions. So yeah, I appreciate your answer because I that is something I limiting myself to a time frame or to a particular specific goal is something that I've struggled with and I'm okay with that struggle now. Let me put it that way. Um
They in the Bible they say write your vision and make it plain. There's a power in writing and making it visual.
mhm,
And why they say smart is because you might end up saying you want to do something for the rest of your life. and and like you said, how it manifests can be in a different kind of way, but it surely does manifest. So do write your goal, your vision, your dream, your intention.
mm.
Write it down, and it will sure come to fruition.
I mean, since you brought the Bible in, let me add something to something you said. You
Hmm.
said you're glad that the opportunities have made your preparedness.
Yeah.
And a story in the Bible that I read recently that resonates with um that truth that you just shared is the story of the widow who I think it yeah, it was Elijah. She had run into Elijah or Elisha, one of them, and she she asked for help, and Elijah told her to go back home and find as many vessels as you can. Even if you need to borrow from your neighbors, you borrow from your neighbors. And she went and she did that, and she got as many. And Elijah asked her, "Are you sure this is all you have?" She was like, "Okay, yes, this is all I have." And she started pouring oil from for I can't remember where it was, but the Bible records that she filled up all the vessels that she had. So what that says to me is that when God is trying to bless you, you have to be prepared for the opportunities that are about to come. you know, you have to go
Yes.
and get as many vessels as possible so that you can be able to receive that blessing however it shows up.
Mm.
So yeah, just wanted to, make that correlation and give you some encouragement to keep preparing yourself for the more that is to come.
Awesome. Awesome. That tells me I need to put my vessels together. Hey, for 2024. Eh?
And make sure there's enough.
I'm going to get it even from the neighbors.
So there you have it, guys. You've come to the end of the first episode of the African Mavericks podcast. Beautiful conversation, right? Well, if you enjoyed this as much as I did, please do me a favor by sharing this with a friend, because I believe that's going to be one of the best ways we can grow this channel. Also, feel free to do the usual, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and also drop your comments. We're open to receiving feedback. We would love to hear from you about things that resonated with you the most, or ways that I could improve on what we're trying to achieve here. Yeah, so until the next time we see, I wish you more life and more blessings. Peace.